When I was reading, I was almost like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It was the thing that they both deserved, and it just made me really happy. I can see the direction it's gone in, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I was like, just do it, just grab him and kiss him. So what are my final thoughts on this first set of romance books? Hello, my fellow chatterers and romance lovers, romance haters, and everyone else in between. Welcome to my channel. I am Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I am going to be chatting away madly for episode 3 of Can I Read Romance? If you are not sure what this project Can I Read Romance is, I do have an introduction episode which I will link here so you can find out. In episode 3, I am going to be sharing all my thoughts on each of these 3 books. I'll be talking about my non-spoiler thoughts first, and then for each book I will talk about my spoiler thoughts. There are timestamps, so you will be warned, don't worry. And then at the end I will put each book through the romance rater to give us some numbers to compare the books. And if you want to see my journey on reading these 3 books, I suggest watching episode 2 if you haven't already, which I'll link here, and then come back to this episode and I will be giving you the lowdown. Did these romances work for me as someone who doesn't generally read romance? So I'm going to start off by giving you a non-spoiler version for each of the books. So Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, The Davenports, and A Taste of Golden Iron. If you want a synopsis on what all of these books are about, I have put their story graph links in the description box. So you can click on them, you can find out about other people's reviews, trigger warnings, and you'll get that all-important synopsis. Because I have so many things to say, I'm not going to be going through a synopsis. The first book I read for this project was Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. This was the contemporary romance. There was a lot of this that I really, really enjoyed. I could definitely sympathise and see where both the characters were coming from, and I absolutely adored Stevie. Just from the get-go, that opening scene with her, understanding kind of like how anxious she was feeling, how kind of stuck in a rut, sort of like with her career, how she viewed herself within her friendship group, and kind of how she reviewed her love life. You could just see that she just needed some sort of boost. I really appreciated her friend Ren trying to help her out with a bit of tough love, but just Stevie just absolutely made me melt. I thought the anxiety representation that Stevie has was done beautifully. You could just really understand sort of where Stevie was coming from, how she was feeling. It was just excellently done, and she was just so adorable. And once you got to know Iris a bit more in terms of her vulnerabilities, you could just see how well the two of them complemented each other. But what I really loved about this one was just the silly fun. There was so much silly fun in it. Both of the characters were in certain situations that were quite comedic, and I really enjoyed that. Like the first hookup was awkward and embarrassing, but there was also a humour aspect to it as well, just especially seeing like both of their points of view, and it made me laugh a lot. I really loved the moment when they reconnected again and they met each other, and it was played beautifully, sort of with neither of them expecting to see each other. The fake dating rumour that had occurred that Stevie kind of felt trapped in, and Iris amazingly started playing along. All of that just worked out into such like hilarious situations. And then you also have the dynamic of Stevie's friendship group as well, and kind of the awkward relationships and kind of the toxic relationships within that. And Iris is very much a character that she's very loyal, but also she does like to kind of like needle when there is she stirs the pot a bit when she can sense something. And she's not afraid of speaking her mind, and she's very, very confident, and all of that just added to the fun and this dynamic. Amongst that, you really do see Stevie grow in her own confidence, and Iris sort of feel comfortable enough to open up to her, and that relationship just sort of like played so beautifully with the both of them, to the point that there were moments where I did go quite teary-eyed about certain things, when there were just moments where you could tell that one or the other one was hurt and it just missed, but it wasn't like an obvious miss, it wasn't like a stupid miss, and it was dealt with by them going away, thinking about stuff, talking to people, and then coming back and talking to each other, which is very healthy, and that is what I love. I did worry that Iris's friendship group was going to annoy me slightly, because all of those characters have already starred in one of the books in this series previously. I did wonder if there was just going to be a little bit too much kind of like, oh, aren't they so cute and in love? But the way it was done kind of helped with Iris's story, so I thought that worked really well. And then you do also get a lot more time with Claire, so if you're a Claire fan, hooray for you. But there was a really nice kind of like friendship with her and Stevie. There were certain similarities, and she really kind of wanted to support this relationship. So that was sort of some really nice moments as well. There was further conflict happening, but all of it felt very normal. It felt very natural. And although, yes, there were certain things that could have happened to not cause difficulties, I did think it was understandable the way things did pan out. And the final moment of the story, yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved the final moment. I thought it was fantastic. It was the thing that they both deserved, and it just made me really happy. It just made me really happy, and I think I did get emotional. I think I did cry a little bit as well while I was doing it, but it was more like full-on joy. Whereas sort of earlier in the book, it was very much crying for both of them to be so vulnerable and open to each other within their own difficulties and a way they have previously been hurt, where the other one had kind of like helped them to be a stronger person and to not heal each other, but allow them to feel confident enough in themselves to let that other person in. So there was that emotional cheery moment that I had, and then there was the final part. It's your fireworks going off moment. It's your big Hollywood end of a rom-com moment, which I very much enjoyed. The epilogue I didn't feel was necessary. I kind of enjoyed this story just being left where it was, but for someone, if you have enjoyed all the books in the series and you want to have this moment when all three of those characters are brought back together, three protagonists are brought back together within that friendship group, to kind of celebrate and kind of see this is where they all are in their lives, as kind of like a saying goodbye to the series, I can understand how that would definitely work for you. So it was fine, and I understand why the book did it, but actually in terms of me enjoying the book, I'm just going to have the ending as the final chapter. I read The Davenports by Crystal Marquez, and I also read The Davenports More Than This, because if you saw my last video, The Davenports ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. The romances were half done. I couldn't really comment on half finished romances, so this didn't take me too long to read it all. So I apologise in advance, but The Davenports More Than This could have been more than this. I'm sorry, the pun was just too obvious. To be fair to the book, this concept of more than this was used appropriately. Like, there was a nod to it a couple of times in terms of the girls saying that they want to be more than what they are, like more than just seen as a society damsel, that they have more worth behind them than that. So I liked the nod. I did appreciate that it wasn't overplayed. However, oh, I feel so frustrated, because this could have been really ticking all my boxes. I could have been so invested in all of this, and it just didn't hit the mark. It did feel an improvement on the Davenports, but it still just wasn't quite there. I'm not going to go too much into the Davenport side of it, because I kind of covered that quite a bit in the previous episode. So I'm going to focus on where the girls got to within the next book. But generally, as an overview, I just didn't quite get the character connection. I was close. It was enjoyable, but there were just moments where it just kind of slipped into like, And to start off with, when I was reading, I was almost like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It's just not working for me. But I thought I do just need to get a gist of what the individual characters kind of ended up so I can comment properly on the romance. So then what I started to do was I picked one of the girls and then I just read her chapters. Yes, the book is written to kind of mesh it together, and there were certain nods and hints within that. But because it's so segmented and it's so stop-starty, it just wasn't, I'd sort of get into the flow of a story, and then it kind of stop. So I'd then have to kind of rewind again. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a fantasy reader. I am used to multiple POVs. But my fantasy books are a lot bigger, and there's a lot more show don't tell, and there's a lot more investment, and there's a lot more when you kind of have the end of that chapter and there's a bit of a cliffhanger, then you go to a different point of view and then you go back into the chapter. It generally picks up within that present moment and continues the story. What I was finding with the segmentiness of the Davenports, there'd be sometimes it would end on sort of like an end of the day feeling, but sometimes it would kind of end on something that was quite like, oh, what's going to happen here? And then it would start when you caught up with that character again. You'd start and it would be like, a few days later, I'd be like, wait, what happened? And it would just kind of refer to it in the past, and it just didn't have that same, the tension was gone. It just would drop the tension because of that. So I did actually enjoy it more when I picked one character, read through their chapters, went on to the next character, read through their chapters, and so on. That kind of continuity of the character helped me invest a bit more in the story. But although it was better than the Davenports, it still just wasn't hitting it for me. More Than This didn't give me what I was hoping for. This is a YA light-hearted romance with a few other themes in it. But for me, if I want the light-hearted romance, I want the banter, I want the fun. And it just wasn't giving me either. It was just a bit of that. It was the tone of that, and it just scratched the surface. And then we had like sprinklings of the kind of like the themes and the historical content, and I just didn't quite get into either one of them. Also, following the 4 stories, there are certain motifs that was kind of like being recycled. It was a bit repetitive, because all of these girls had their own climaxes within the story, coming to this kind of crescendo and then the resolution, and it just felt like your energy wasn't sure where it was going. It just didn't mesh together well, which is such a shame. And I think it kind of had this romance saga, but because of the segmented nature of it, it just didn't quite fill together. Like, I have read other kind of saga stories where it blends all of the characters together more holistically, and I think the reason why is because you do have kind of more of a central story and then side plots from it, whereas each of these girls' stories was given an equal amount of attention. Like, there wasn't a protagonist and side characters. And I do feel that this would have been better in 4 books, so we had more time to spend on them, and starring each one of the girls individually. I kind of felt like the author didn't trust that one story by itself was going to be enough. Whereas she could have expanded it. We could have had more time with Helen in the garage. We could have had more of Olivia like feeling this kind of emptiness with her debutante lifestyle. It could have gone below the surface. We could have dug deeper, and I think it would have been more fulfilling. And I still think you could have had the lighter tone with it, because there would have been more time to make a connection between the protagonist and the love interest, to have that banter, that build up, that spark. And I just wasn't getting those things from it, which is such a shame, because the potential is there. So because we didn't get to dive deep, I did feel that it was such a shame that we didn't get to explore a little bit more of class, of colorism, of sort of like the black entrepreneurs and this like economic growth, and of feminism. Like, I felt we just gently brushed the surface and then moved on. We just didn't stay there long enough because the story needed to continue and go somewhere else. There wasn't time. Within More Than This, I do feel like the relationships between the 4 girls was improved. There was a lot more mixing within each other's stories. But I do have a slight problem with that, which I will come to when I go into my spoiler section. So looking individually at the girls, starting off with Olivia, I did enjoy seeing her, finding her place within the civil rights movement, like what she can contribute to it, and and there was a kind of an understanding of class within it that was good. But again, I wanted more, I wanted to go deeper, but I did enjoy that we saw that. With her romance, we've kind of gone back again to this like two suitors playing them off against each other. Will they, won't they, who will she end up with? And that's just not something that works for me. I want to build a relationship with two characters. I want to see the romance and I want to root specifically for it. It wasn't, that's not the thing that I enjoy. With Helen, again, it was nice to see her continuation of her love for mechanics and her wanting to realise this dream. I did enjoy those sections of it. Again, I wanted more. Like, again, we just started exploring it, and I would have enjoyed more. I loved the race car aspect of it. I thought that was really, really fun, and her exhilaration with it. I wanted to continue down that road, and we didn't get spent enough time there. Again, I would have enjoyed seeing the difficulties that they were encountering, like maybe hearing from the board members themselves about how tricky this was going to be, rather than just being told that the board members are going to be against it. The only kind of antagonism we get is from their dad about whether or not he's going to go for this. And knowing the type of book it is and the type of family and the type of characters we see, we know how that's going to go. But I would have liked to have felt the struggle. I never felt like it was not going to work. Like, I didn't have that level of there wasn't a level of fear, there wasn't a level of worry that this enterprise wasn't going to have a happy ending. So because of that, I didn't enjoy it. There was no like, oh please, because you're like, sure, it'll happen. It just lost that, the drama was gone. In terms of her romance, the thing that annoyed me at the end of the Davenports was picked up by one of the other characters and was mentioned by one of the other characters, which I appreciate. So I will give Crystal Marcus her due. That was great. But then we have another situation of two potential suitors, and we have a miscommunication. And I was just, it just felt a bit frustrating. I was like, no, we can do better than this. Come on. So that was disappointing. And again, I think if she had her own book and was a focus of it, we could have had time for this to expand. Amy Rose. We got to see her dreams and her career path be realised. We got to see her progression with it. But again, there was threats of it not achieving, but it was only glimmers. It was only prodded at that it wasn't going to happen. The fear was prodded at. She would talk about, oh, but what if, a few times, but we never kind of were in that situation where there was suddenly an issue coming in. Like suddenly, like she got a bill where she couldn't afford the rent, and what was she going to do? Like, we didn't have that moment of uncertainty for her, of worry for her, of fear that her business that she'd worked so hard of was going to be dragged down. It just wasn't there. Her relationship, her romance, I can see the direction it's gone in, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. Either more grovelling was needed, more grovelling, more of an apology, or she overreacted and didn't listen, which isn't great. So that one didn't work for me either. And then Ruby. I said before I enjoyed her romance in the Davenports better, but I found the character contradictory. I preferred her character in this one. She was more consistent with what she wanted and who she was. However, I didn't feel she needed a career. I felt that she could have been someone that we could have explored the socialite path, but with her doing causes. You know, she was the one that her dad was running for mayor. It was part of the family front. You know, the ballroom politics was here. She could be good at talking, good at getting people inside, good at networking, and that could have like been her skill set. But that's not the direction. It's like all of the girls need a career, possible suitors, and achieving their dream. So I appreciate the idea of young black women being able to have a career, have a vocation, and to have that respect, be respected by their lover. But it's a bit repetitive when you get it 4 times. Ruby's relationship was the one where it had already been established in the Davenports. So within this book, there were certain things that were keeping them apart, and it was all like outer circumstances. And this was in, like, you know, this we could have really gone into that, and that would have been really, really interesting to be exploring. Again, it's just a little bit, there were moments where it was kind of pointed out. There was a few comments, a few wobbles within the family, but we didn't really dig deep into it. We could have had wonderful dinner party conversations, but we could have had a bit more of that. And Ruby's character would really lend itself to that. So yeah, I just feel it was missed opportunities. And the final book that I read for this project was A Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexander Rowland. This was the fantasy romance. In episode 2, it was quite clear that I was very much enjoying this book. Did it stick the landing? Did it take me to where I needed it to go for the end? Yes, it absolutely did. I loved this book so much. I loved it. Absolutely loved this book. It just gave me everything I needed. It just continued on that trajectory that I was having, with all of the tension, all of this simmering tension, and this adorableness between the characters, alongside the politicking that was happening, and just this world. You were just so immersed in it by this point, and it was just so gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. Just the way these two characters are with each other. Kadu, he's very vulnerable, he's very open, he's very sweet, he's got anxiety. My heart melts for him. Just all the love goes out for him. But there's also this like mischievous side to him as well. Just the contrast with Evermere as this very like stoic, solid, not very good at sharing his feelings and emotions. And just Kadu teasing that out of him, and the delight he has when he kind of like breaks through and Avemere opens up, or Avemere's like, I am the professional Kayla, I am doing the service, I am providing all the things that are needed, and he like can break out of that a little bit and like crack a joke or something like that. Like Kadu's joy with that, having those human moments are just adorable. But just seeing these two care for each other and this like affection grow and build is just absolutely wonderful. And then you get in these layers of sexual tension and this chemistry just bubbling, to the point that I've never read a book where I have needed the romantic couple to literally just like grab each other by like the, what's it called, like the lapels or the collar, and just snog. Like I've never felt that from a book before, but like this, the pacing of it, and all the setup and the build up and the anticipation, I was like, just do it, just grab him and kiss him. And I was quite surprised at how aggressive I started getting about the need for these two characters to just get together. But it wasn't like oh my goodness, how long is this going to be dragged out? It was just perfectly done. It was absolute chef's kiss. So good. And alongside that, you've also got all of these political tensions, and you have all these different characters as well, like adding different layers to I suppose, to kind of the relationship. So you have Kadu's sister Zalia, who is the Sultan, who is trying to keep the peace within the land, continue to keep it strong and prosperous, with there being a bit of a diplomatic incident, I suppose is the best way to describe it, between Kadu and the father of her child, the body father. There's a lot of politicking that needs kind of smoothing out. And then there's the other political things happening with false counterfeit coins, which is a source of their land's power, and something important that has been stolen to do with like trade routes. So there's all of these things kind of bubbling at the surface. Kadu is just absolutely beating himself up for everything that happened, second guessing everything, so much anxiety going off. You do have this really lovely unit of people around him. So his Kahalias, which are his like team of like servants and bodyguards in a way, but it's like this little like close-knit found family. And he kind of goes out of his way as well to kind of support them and their needs, because he's responsible for them. So even though there's not really when you've got someone who is a prince and is on a different status, you're never really going to have that equality, but they try. They try to balance it out. everyone kind of trying to look after each other and look out for everyone's well-being situation. We've got different characters that have different personalities. So one of them is a lot more jokey and rubs Evermore up the wrong way. Evermore doesn't like him because he doesn't think he is someone that follows the rules well enough. He thinks he's inappropriate. He doesn't like Tadek. So Tadek and him rub each other up the wrong way, but that kind of turns more in a friendly antagonism, shall we say. And then you have Kadu's maternal figure, Izoma. She is the commander of the guards, so she has got such a sort of a maternal side to Kadu, and you do see it come out at certain points, and it's really lovely to see. But she's also kind of has that protective parent role in terms of like how he is seen by society, as well as like what he needs for himself. So there's all these kind of different factors. So when there is a change in the relationship between Kadu and Evemer, there is like tensions. There's extra tensions around because of like how people react to certain things, or might react to certain things, because it's not a good idea for them to get involved. So the reason for keeping them apart is a real reason. When you look at all of the social politics and the balance of power, and trying not to offend different people, and just kind of like how this would work out logistically, it's not a great idea for there to be a relationship between Kadu and Evemer. It's just not a good idea. So there's a genuine reason why they shouldn't be together. Just really enjoy all the drama. It's great. So alongside all of that, there is a plot of them trying to find what's happening with these counterfeit coins and with what's happened to this missing object that they are trying to investigate together. They kind of only start trusting a few people, so the people like that they feel would be good at doing things, their numbers are very limited, to the point that they all end up kind of like in very close-knit situations together, having to deal with the thing that not everyone is going to know about because they don't know who to trust. So within those like close situations, there has to be sort of skulking and there is kind of false proximity between Kadu and Evemer, which adds to the hilarity, the awkwardness afterwards, and all of this simmering tension. So I had a great time. It just really worked for me. It worked for me on all of the levels. I thought it was brilliant. So towards the end of the book, you get the climax of the plot part, where it's like what's been happening, who's been, you know, putting counterfeit coins out into their town, country, and what is it they're hoping to gain by it. And so all of that starts coming to light, and you have the climax of the story around that. You also kind of have, at the same time, you're getting kind of the climax of Kadu and Evemer's relationship, and at that point, like both are kind of running parallel to each other. But sort of towards the end, once you've kind of, I suppose, like hit the climax of the plot line, and then we start turning to the resolution, it's like you kind of don't need it anymore, and you just want to focus on Kadu and Evemer because they haven't reached their resolution, and like that becomes so much more important than the actual plot. So if I was judging it as like just a fantasy, I would be like, that plot it didn't quite wrap up as well. Like I felt the fear, and then I didn't feel like it was like looked into at the end. It was kind of like just a little bit thrown away, like we've dealt with that now. But because it's a fantasy romance and the most you're invested in is the romance, you kind of don't care, because it's like, yeah, someone else deal with that. That's a bit of a distraction. We need to focus on Kadu and Evemer here. So it just worked. I had the best time, and I absolutely was not expecting to love this book. And I did. I really did.
Reading Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake.
Spoilers incoming. Okay, we're doing spoilers now. So if you want to read Iris Kelly Doesn't Date and you don't want to have the book spoiled, then please use the timestamps and skip ahead to the next one. You have been warned. So the first thing I want to talk about was the first time that Iris and Stevie met. It was such a comedic moment because you already having met Stevie, you know that she's trying to come across as this like cool, confident character in order to pick someone up, to give herself the boost so she doesn't need to feel like a sad, pathetic ex in front of her friends. But she's just so adorable, and it's so not her. The one night stands is not her. She's a romantic. She's out, I want to know you a lot more before letting myself be vulnerable in front of you by getting naked. You could tell there's definitely an attraction between Iris and Stevie to start off with, but Stevie gets so nervous that she vomits on Iris. And it's Iris is like, she can understand that Stevie's nervous. She's like, look, there's no pressure, we don't have to do this. But Stevie's like, I need to do this, I need the clout. But it really wasn't right for Stevie to do it at that point. Like, she wasn't in the right headspace to do it. Like, you shouldn't be forcing yourself to do something just to kind of have a better standing with your friends, just to try and boost your self-esteem. And Stevie's body automatically reacts by vomiting. And it's very sweet. Iris tucks her in and off she goes. But Stevie's left with that, oh my goodness, how did this happen? And I just found the whole thing hilarious. Equally hilarious was the moment when the two of them then met in the auditions for Much Ado About Nothing. And this added another level because I absolutely love Much Ado About Nothing. I love it in terms of, I have very fond memories of studying the play, of doing dramatic scenes from the play, and directing and performing parts of it within different like Amdram and Fringe stuff. So I do absolutely love this. And that most famous scene between Beatrice and Benedict, I would eat his heart in the marketplace scene, that all of that, like, it's just such fantastic language. Like, it's so amazing. And the way that was used in the story, in the context of Stevie and Iris's relationship, and how that was built, and how they used part of it to kind of like declare their love for each other, it was just beautiful. And after I finished this book with some tears, I then had to go and pull out my copy of Much Ado About Nothing and read that scene again. It was beautiful. Anyway, I've got ahead of myself. So Iris ends up being roped in by her friend to try something completely new and do some community theatre, and she gets pulled into being Beatrice. The people running the show are, of course, Stevie's friends, who think Stevie is dating Iris and think Iris has come to surprise Stevie. Iris has no idea what's going on. Stevie sees her. Amazingly, Iris kind of agrees to it, and then they go and hide, and are like, what the hell are you doing? And Stevie, bless her, just awkwardly comes out with, I throw up when I'm nervous and I need you to help me with this. And just the way it all comes out, it's just, Stevie's just so adorable, and Iris is just so like supportive and game for shenanigans and helping her out. And at the same time, she sees this as a way to kind of get past her writer's block by learning how to be romantic to inspire her next story. So all of that was a lot of fun, and the fact that it's they know that they're having fun with it, it just leads itself to like so many fun things, but also really cute, because you know as the reader that actually this could go somewhere and you're expecting it to go somewhere, and it was just really delightful. I really enjoyed as well Stevie being able to face up to the fact that her ex-girlfriend was it was a toxic relationship, because she did not give Stevie a lot of choice. Like, she saw Stevie's anxiety as Stevie can't make choices and she needs to be spoken over. And then also her friends start doing that a bit out of love for Stevie, out of support for Stevie, but Stevie's like, I have to do this myself, I can't be rushed, I can't be pushed, I need to make decisions for myself. And I really enjoyed how the turning that took. I also really appreciate Iris like understanding that her friends want what's best for her, but feeling frustrated that her friends are kind of pushing her into something that maybe she needs to have a little bit more time to think about. So I did appreciate kind of like the friendship dynamics and all of that. And there was a lot of messy drama, which I loved. I love a bit of messy drama. There's so many like beautiful moments where Stevie and Iris actually spoke to each other about how they were feeling was gorgeous. And just that final moment, the moment where the penny drops, where Iris realises that Stevie does love her and this relationship could work. And then she goes to New York and she stands outside her door, and it's just the moment, like, it's just It was just a beautiful moment. It was just a beautiful moment for the end, and I did cry. It felt like that's what Stevie deserves. It was very beautiful. But what I do also appreciate that Ashley Herring Blake does is there are moments when they talk about, yes, if they didn't have this relationship, like it shows that Stevie could be happy in New York, having a new life for herself. There was potential for her to move on from Iris had that relationship not worked, and she was going to be okay. And the same with Iris, like she had a lot of things going for her. Yes, she at that point was broken up with Stevie, but she had her book signing, she had her friends, she had her family, and she was going to be okay. But the fact that they felt, actually, let's make this is a really, really good thing, let's try and make it work. I just like that acknowledgement that they would still be okay even if they didn't have this relationship. Like, it wasn't a relationship that was going to fix them. Like, they still had their own goals, they still had their own dreams, and those were working for them. But this was like the cherry on the cake. So I really appreciated all of that aspect of it. So yeah, I had a fabulous time with this book.
The Davenports by Crystal Marquis. Spoilers incoming.
It's spoiler time. So if you want to read The Davenports, I suggest skipping if you don't want to have certain things spoilt for you. So I alluded in episode 2, I alluded to a few things that I felt frustrated with in Olivia's story that would have been really good, exciting moments within the plot that we didn't get to see. So within Olivia's work, in her being involved in the civil rights movement, she eventually decides that she wants to follow, she chooses Washington Dwight as her love interest over her other suitor chosen by her parents. So she agrees to go with him to Washington. She's told her mum about her decision. She's all packed. Her sister knows. She goes to the train station. There is a part of her that's not fully convinced about leaving Chicago because Chicago still needs work in her eyes to like support the movement. But obviously she's fallen in love with Washington and she wants to support the cause and go with him to the rallies. And she's kind of caught up within like the fever of all of this. When she gets to the train station, I can't remember who it is, but another person tells her that Hetty, who has been part of the civil rights movements as well, but is also a servant in the Davenport house, in the riots, was imprisoned. Her cousin paid for bail, but they haven't released her. So instead of, she can see him, she can see Washington on the train in the distance. He sees her, smiles, delighted she's there. She talks to this person. She looks up and then she turns around and disappears. So there is no communication between her and Washington about what's about to happen. She just goes, I need to stay in Chicago. I need to go and save Hetty. What a wonderful showdown for her to appear in a jail and get Hetty's release. That would have been a really exciting moment. Instead we get, after it's all happened, we just get Olivia talking about, but it was the right thing to go and release Hetty. So she will stay in Chicago. It's like, what? We didn't get to see it? That was really exciting. You were going to go down, you were going to see this prison, there was going to be antagonism, there was going to be like difficulties, especially because, you know, you're a woman, and how would the police have been? Like, how would that have all gone? How would it have been for Hetty? What would she have been suffering in this place? And we get none of that. Nothing. Like, oh, what a missed opportunity. So it's like that exciting point where we left, and it's like, oh dear. So what I wasn't convinced of within this particular romance was the attraction, why the attraction between Olivia and Washington was there. Like, from her side, I could see it. Like, he was very passionate. It was very different. He was making her think different things. He was making her feel more alive. We got the impression that he was very charismatic. He did not seem particularly to think about her welfare. Like, she was within the riot. She was meeting him in town, and it's like, well, it's nice that he kind of sees her on the level, but like, I'm not thinking about her gender here. What I'm thinking about is her as a sheltered, high-class woman. Unattended, high-class woman would not be used to dealing with rougher situations. And I am all for, in romance situations, women standing on their own 2 feet, you know, not having to be pandered to or anything like that. But this just felt like kind of disregard for like her well-being. And I didn't understand why he was attracted to her anyway, because to me it almost seemed like he enjoyed like pointing out that she wasn't going to be really invested in anything. Like she just enjoyed being in denial. So I couldn't understand why he was attracted to her unless he kind of enjoyed the kind of like ownership of having won something like shiny over to his side. I don't know, I just didn't quite get it. I didn't see the connection, which is fine because it turns out he's not the end game. That was just another distraction, and we have a brand new character who kind of is like his foil to that. So he's a lot more kind of care and attention. He kind of has similar aspirations to her, that it doesn't need to be all showy and fighting. It can also be done in kind of a calmer way through demonstration, and it's not like leaving to go and chase the light. It's very much more staying within your hometown where you put roots and fighting for your own community as kind of part of a whole. And there is kind of an encouragement and of like her own kind of dreams and desires sort of within that. But we only kind of get all this again through this kind of telling, not so much showing, because we spend a lot of time in Olivia's head, even though it's not first person. We get a lot of her thoughts on different things. And there seems to be kind of like, in terms of like the spark and the banter, it seems to be a little bit more from her thoughts on the physical appearance and her kind of like enjoying the desire of like both these different possibilities, and her not being too sure about which way to go. Like I felt there could have been a little bit more of a recognition that it wasn't going to work between her and Washington, more of a appreciation of her self-worth. If the book was longer, I feel I could have definitely rooted for them, but it was just like a sure kind of feeling I got, because I just wasn't there long enough to kind of to develop that connection for them as a couple. And again, we had another moment at the beginning of this story. So as I painted the picture before of the train going, Olivia not getting on the train, Washington going off, and Olivia staying in Chicago. And then I'm like, well, that's an interesting tension. What's going to happen when they see each other again? And he's like, you didn't come with me. And she's like, but this is why. We didn't get any of that. We just kind of got the book starts. She's, doing her different bits and pieces, her charities, and then her going down to the community centre and doing her work for all the different movements, and then talking about writing to him. So like, it's like it was all smoothed over. The possible tension that we had within their relationship, it was just nicely smoothed over. Like, because they're just pen pals. Like, just quite happy. Like, she explained, she's staying. Like, there was no, like, there could have been tension. There could have been a moment of, yes, a tad of miscommunication, but there could have been a difficulty to kind of come past, and, like, some drama aspect to it. And there just wasn't. There just wasn't. The drama kind of came from Washington and Everett Stone kind of butting heads with each other when they both came, and like not till like the end. That was the climax, that she had these two people to choose between. So it just fell flat for me for Olivia's story. With Helen's story, so again in the Davenports, I alluded to that there was just something a bit dodgy about her romance. So her love interest is Jacob Lawrence, who starts the story off as Olivia's suitor. This young upcoming businessman that would be a lovely attribute to the Davenports and continue to kind of raise them in society in their progression. So Olivia, obviously the eldest child, the good child, the beautiful debutante, they were going to get married and engaged. And within that, Olivia then develops feelings for Washington, and Jacob actually develops feelings for Helen, the unconventional sister. Helen, who's not like other girls. Helen, who enjoys mechanics. And it just felt creepy that the suitor of the older sister was kind of being then attracted to the younger sister, kind of like behind the parents' backs. It just felt a little bit dodgy. And also a bit icky, like, because Helen's like, but he's Olivia's suitor, but I'm kind of enjoying feelings for him, and I'm flirting with him, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't kind of fit the sisterhood. It just didn't fit the healthy. Once we got past that, and that there was a discussion between the sisters, there was a discussion between Olivia and Jacob that they weren't going to work, and then it was the all clear for everyone, but Olivia and Jacob were going to pretend that they were courting to help, they just brush smooth over like their parents' expectations. But then Helen and Jacob kind of broke up over Jacob deciding to tell her the truth, that actually he's not that financially affluent and he's come here. And then she's like, you lied to my family, get out, I don't want to listen to you. And it's like, wow, that is, this is him telling you. And you're like, but you lied to me. It's like, no, but this is him telling you. This is him like saying, I'm so sorry. Actually, this is the truth. This was my plan and now I'm not doing the plan. And then she's just angry. And I'm like, this kind of doesn't fit. And this is what is pointed out by one of the other characters in here, that not everyone tells the truth to start off with. Like Ruby had her own, like, I'm gonna make John Davenport jealous by flirting with Harrison, and then ends up falling for Harrison, and then ends up afterwards telling Harrison that yes, she did originally do it to make John jealous, but actually she ended up falling for him. So it is pointed out to Helen that, you know, we could come past this. So then the problem comes in not just in that miscommunication, which isn't dealt with. It comes in through the fact that they think that when they see Jacob Lawrence again, that he's now married. Turns out he's not actually married, it's his cousin, but there's so much miscommunication, there's so much confrontation. Jacob has written to Helen to explain. Helen doesn't read anything until like he literally puts this woman in front of us, like, this is my cousin, it's my cousin. She's like, oh, your cousin. I knew that. It just didn't work. Once we get past that bit, there was a nice moment where Jacob explained exactly why he liked Helen and all the things that he liked about her. That was nice. Previously in the Davenports, didn't enjoy their flirty mud throwing. What is that? Nothing says romance like a mud fight in 1910. Like this, what is this? I don't care how much you enjoy playing in a garage. I don't care how much you're an unconventional girl. Throwing up literal stinky manky mud and throwing it at someone? Like, what? Why? Why would you do that? No. So yeah, the banter and flirting, not quite there. But I feel it could have been. If we could have like had them growing closer over a longer period, mixing with Helen's enjoyment of mechanics. I don't know what Jacob's plan is so much. Like he's trying to get involved in some business with his family and kind of work his way up with it. We also get Helen having this proper plan to build the automobile from her dad's carriage company with John, and kind of go for an automobile thing, go like through doing this race car idea. You know, that was all fun, but they were very kind of separate from each other. Whereas I kind of missed from the first book that they were kind of meeting each other on a level like within the garage, and it was kind of more part of it, where it's just not quite so much within this one. Again, potential, missed the mark. But at least we've cleared up the miscommunication thing, and endgame was Jacob, and we did acknowledge that Helen's reason for throwing him out was not completely sound if she just sat and chatted to him for a little bit. Because we love communication here, people. Moving on now to Amy Rose. I really like the character Amy Rose. I'm really invested in her entrepreneur plan. She wanted to be more than a servant. She has business goals. She wants to elevate herself. Worthy. Well done. I never got on board with the Amy Rose and John Davenport situation because it very much felt like Lord of the Manor dallying with the staff. Didn't feel like he was giving any more kind of commitment. It felt very wishy-washy and a bit ick because of that definite power balance switch. If he had, like on a day off, invited her out, like wanted to be seen out publicly with her outside of her being a maid in the house. But no. All their interactions were in the gardens or in the kitchen, and it was all very like behind closed doors. It was all very like secretive. And I'm like, that's just dodgy. That just feels dodgy to me. And the reason they split off In principle, he was very much on board with her plan and supported that. It's just great, and I believe that happened. I just don't buy how their relationship got to where it did without a little bit more work from John Davenport. I don't feel he put in enough effort, in my opinion. So Amy Rose decides to leave the Davenport house and go and pursue her business plan, as she should, because she overhears a conversation between John Davenport and his dad and feels that John Davenport is not fighting for them. That she's just seen as a servant. She's just seen as someone that's awkward and is going to drag him down. Amy Rose has got a lighter skin tone. She has got mixed white and black heritage. Her mother was a slave that got freedom, and her father was a white slave owner. It's not completely clear what happened between them. Like, we're kind of sold a little bit further down that her mum and dad did love each other. But again, I don't think that if that was the case, that her dad did enough to kind of come back and find them. Whatever he might have felt, he didn't fight to kind of have his family with him. So I don't kind of buy that side of it. But anyway, she would have a certain amount more privilege because of her lighter skin tone. And it's alluded to that there's that aspect. But also, I think by other society members, she's looked down on because she's seen as being the daughter of a slave owner. But again, it's just brushed the surface. We don't go deeper into it. I know this was not the book to be doing that. Again, it is a light historical romance novel. But if you're going to kind of allude to it a little bit, I feel that could have played out a bit more in the fact that Amy Rose is seen as not someone that would continue to establish and rise in society the Davenport name. So Amy Rose sees that John's not fighting for her, that he's given this ultimatum, her or the business, and then his dad walks off and John doesn't say anything. And she sees that as him not wanting her, him not being good enough for her, him never going to. Because there's been other cases where he hasn't fought for her in front of his friends. They've made a disparaging remark about him kind of getting a bit too friendly with the servants, and he doesn't contradict them. So he has got a lot of uphill work to do. He then apologises when he sees her, but that's not in front of his friends. Like, he needs to do more. Anyway, she goes off to New York. Wonderful business expansion. She's doing really well for herself. She comes back, having got this fully fledged business. While she's been gone, John apparently has told his dad, yes, he wants to marry Amy Rose, and has written to her. I don't feel that's enough. I feel like if you love someone, you don't let them go. You don't let them just disappear and go, oh, I'll just write you a letter, be fine. And when they come back, just not say, did you read my letter? What do you think? Just be like, oh, hi, and then not talk to each other. It's not enough. And then they just kind of talk to each other, although it's all kind of fine. I didn't quite get it. Like, they mentioned it, but when John's like, but I did go and talk to my dad. I did go and tell him, and she's like, oh, okay. So, like, more? Like, probe him. Say, so, what did you do? What's the situation? What do you want? She's like, but will we work? Are we just not going to work? It's like, there just needed to be more, and there wasn't. She comes back to the house. She was living with her patron, but her patron dies. That's another thing. Her patron dies. But again, that could have been a really exciting moment of like Amy Rose in the carriage with a dead body and people coming in like, what happened? She is much lower down in society in terms of class. Her patron has just died literally in front of her. We just like, we have a funeral and we're like, oh, we're sad she's gone. And there's some complications with like where Amy Rose is going to live because she was living with her. The patron's daughter doesn't want her to remain in the house. And we didn't get to see that moment of like people coming into the carriage when she died and like what happens to the body and what happens to the funeral. We just hear about it afterwards. Thanks for your help with the funeral. There was just so much tension, possibilities that we didn't get to see. Anyway, moving back to John Davenport. So because she can no longer stay where she does, the one place she thinks where she might be welcome again is the Davenport home. So she goes back to the Davenport home, where of course she's going to run into John. And apart from an awkward dinner scene and a shut door, we don't talk to each other scene, like, what was the point of that? There wasn't enough like awkward tension. There wasn't any kind of forced moments where they've got to talk to each other. It just didn't go anywhere. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to move out. And then she does. And then they talk to each other. Like, why did she go back in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. I suppose there was a small moment when they had the awkward dinner party scene where John like sort of stood up for her a bit. I was like, sorry, it needs to be more. Considering all the moments when you haven't stood up for her, there needs to be more for me to be invested in you two. I just don't believe it. He's not standing up for her while she's a maid. And we don't see much of Olivia and Helen being her friend while she's a maid. When she comes back as the founder and owner of this business with her own hair salon, and she's now this entrepreneur, that's when Helen's her friend. That's when Olivia's her friend. That's when John's standing up for her. I want Amy Rose to do this all without their help, absolutely. But they needed to be outwardly supporting her when she was a maid for me to feel comfortable and be for them all being part of her life when she's now this entrepreneur. I just didn't quite feel the fight from John for Amy Rose. He just felt too wishy-washy. There was no fight. I needed the fight. She deserved the fight. Ruby. So Ruby's storyline was that she's engaged to Harrison. The two families aren't too sure of each other, the Tremaines and the Bartons. And within this party, we have this moment. We find out that Mr. Tremaine loses the mayor, the running for mayor. He doesn't win it. One of the reasons is there is a nasty rumour going around that Ruby is not as pure and as innocent as they have been believed. There are rumours that she has liaisons with men. That could be Harrison. It could be John Davenport. We don't know. It's never fully said. There's just rumours that she's a bit tainted. So Harrison stands by her. Scandal, rumours. It's like, it's not true. Someone's causing problems. We stand with you. However, both the Tremaines and the Bartons feel they should just cool it down, just wait for the rumours to blow over, and then they can get married. We also then have some of Harrison's friends who come, and they are brother and sister or cousin, I can't remember. Anyway, there's Carter who tries to put the moves on Ruby. I don't know if it's because he's trying to help out Odette or if he's just like, well, she's a good time girl, so let's see what I can get away with. Odette, who was like an ex-lover of Harrison and wants him back, so she's causing chaos, and she started the rumours. I feel within that's enough for Ruby and Harrison to try to be strong against all the stuff going against them. So their families don't want them to get married. Society thinks Ruby's a slut. There's enough kind of going on for them to be managing. I didn't feel that we needed Ruby to then decide that she wants to be a fashion designer and have her own career. I feel that Ruby is a strong enough character to go for this kind of more networking, like events coordinator, like putting on these lavish parties, making sure the right people come, introducing people and kind of furthering causes and kind of trying to bring about change that way. Whether that's kind of trying to change public opinion of Harrison and for people to stop being prejudiced at his parentage, or to be like riding out the fact that she is going to be shunned by society because of these rumours. So some like high sticklers are going to look down their noses at her. Maybe she wouldn't be invited to a few things. Like that kind of tension would have been really fun. A little bit of antagonism of the mothers, but not too much. And it's kind of dealt with in a scene of Ruby kind of like standing up for herself, saying, look, I love him. Like, I'm sorry what you think about this, but we're going to get married. So it's like the tension was kind of gone and we focus more on her fashion designing, which is a shame. There wasn't really more to the romance really, other than Ruby rejecting Carson, forgot his name's advances, and Harrison rejecting Odette. Like there was never really any kind of question that him and her were together. Like not really. There was like one scene in the ballroom. That was it. So there wasn't really, the romance kind of wasn't really doing anything else other than then they end up happily married at the end. So the excitement of it was kind of more in the first book rather than this one. And again, potential, but didn't go anywhere. So that is all my thoughts and feelings on the Davenports. I think it's safe to say this didn't work for me. I needed it to be deeper. I needed it just to be focus on one story and kind of go from there. I know that trying to do a romance with too many people all in one go doesn't work. I want one focal point. I like a slow burn. I like to get to know the characters individually and root for them as a couple. That was not this.
Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexandra Rowland. Spoilers incoming.
So going to be moving into spoilers now. So if you want to read A Taste of Gold and Iron, I suggest skipping to where I put everything through the romance rater, because I will now be spoiling some things. So the first thing I need to talk about is just how much of a sweetheart Kadu is and how much my heart melts for him constantly. And I think you really do just see him at the beginning of this book. You see him with his sister and his new niece, and just their delight in each other's company and their joy. So there is a dislike between the body father Cyrano and Kadu. And Kadu is feeling quite anxious about it. He is feeling that Cyrano would like to get rid of him if he could. He gets really anxious about it and panics about it, and he confides to his Kalia, and one of them, Tadek, has a more complicated relationship with. They are sexually active with each other. There is more of an affection and a care beyond friendship between them. But for Kadu, it's much more of a comfort thing. It's like that physical closeness, like he needs it to help him calm down. Like that's kind of how it works. He feels safe with Tadek, and Tadek is quite besotted with Kadu. He really likes him a lot and is very protective of him, but doesn't always think about the consequences of his actions. Anyway, they're all out hunting. Kadu falls from his horse, and they think that Cyrano has tried to kill him, and they attacked Cyrano. So there's this big political hoo-ha about what happened there, and Kadu takes all the blame for it. Although Tadek is blamed a lot as kind of like the leader of his Kayla for causing this big upset when it wasn't warranted. But Kadu is like, but I told him about this, and then he's worried that he's just paranoid, and like it didn't come from anywhere, and he's just caused all these problems, and he's beating himself up about it. He's beating himself up about destroying Tadek's career and all of these things. So that's kind of where you start off with Kadu, just basically spiraling in anxiety, and then basically thinking he's like the worst human possible. And into that walks Evemir, and Evemir only sees Kadu as this basically like this screw up. And he's furious on behalf of the Kayla that got injured in this fight and died, and he thinks Kadu is a bit of a waste of space. So he is just very closed off. Yes, my lord, no, my lord. He's the obedient soldier and begrudges the fact that he's got to be there. And it's a very interesting setup. But as it goes on, I just love seeing how Evemir starts to realise that Kadu is suffering, and he genuinely cares for people, and he was distraught that his friends, that these people that were trying to protect him got killed under his instruction. But you also start to see that Cyrano absolutely bullies Kadu. Any chance he gets, he belittles him. He constantly makes fun of their customs. When he's around Zelia, he doesn't do any of that, but when he's around Kadu, he is a massive bully. So all of Kadu's like people are very protective of him, but Kadu's also like, but we can't upset him because it's going to cause another scandal again, and I don't want there to be another scandal again, and I don't want to get exiled. So your heart just bleeds for him, and he's trying to solve this problem that he was supposedly investigating before, but then feels that people don't trust him to do it because he's a screw up. So he just starts going to places and just getting drunk in taverns. And there's a part of him that enjoys making Evemir uncomfortable by that. So he lets Evemir go with him, and he just goes and gets pissed. I don't think he does it. No, he wears common clothes, so it's not obvious that he's the prince. So and he's basically looking for a fight. He's spoiling for a fight. It's almost like his way of like punishing himself. And there was just a really fun moment when you see how much Evemir realizes he's completely misjudged Kadu on several things. When Evemir says, oh, I'll teach you, if you don't do this, what I'll do is I'll teach you to fight. And Kadu's like, sure, teach me to fight. And then Evemir gives some basic fight training, and then Kadu just beats him just beats him up. And he's like, do you think I haven't been taught to defend myself? I know I'm going to get assassinated at any moment. We're always taught to defend ourselves. And Eva was just like completely taken aback by it. And I just found it hilarious. I did say that I really kind of struggled to get to know Evemir and what he wants as much as Kadu. I still think that stands. Like, you do see more of a vulnerability to Evemir, but he is very much someone that just wants to do his best. He wants to do his best. He's got a very high work ethic, and he is someone that really struggles to express his emotions and to be physically affectionate with people. It doesn't come naturally to him. So it's more of a character thing. I still don't think I know enough of him. That's my one thing with the book. I would like to know him a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen him more before he came into Kadu's service, so we got to see him and then see him, the difference in him when he was in Kadu's service. But I do just love the softening that Evemir then has towards Kadu, and Kadu's appreciation of how hard Evemir works, how hard he is trying. Because one of the things Kadu finds really hard is that because Evemir is so closed off, Kadu's like, have I offended you? Have I upset you? You're just going to follow my orders regardless. I don't want you to follow them regardless. I want to make sure you're okay, and I can't do that if you don't talk to me. And there's this lovely scene exploring all of that. And this is what I really loved about the book. We got to, is how big, I can't remember how big, I think it was 500 pages or something like that. But it's around a good third into the book. You have this lovely scene with them where they've been through quite a lot. There's a lot that's happened. And you see that Evemir respects Kadu, and he realises he's misjudged Kadu. And there's a big kind of opening up. They're able to kind of be really vulnerable with each other and just be able to kind of talk to each other on a level and say what they think. And it's just really lovely. I just really enjoyed that scene where they were able to do that. And with that kind of vulnerability, that's when you start getting the simmers of attraction. So you've had all this groundwork of their characters, you've been immersed in this world, and then you start to get the attraction between these characters, and that build up and that burn, I just loved how it set it off. Some people might find this really slow and not be up for it, but for me it's absolutely worked. I'm a big fan of set up and payoff, and in this particular romance that's exactly what I got. So that was a really lovely scene, and you see the kind of the dynamic change between them. Evemir's love language is very much acts of service. He's trying to do things to show Kadu that he cares for him. And it's a little bit jumbled to start off with. It's a mixture of caring for him as his prince, caring for him as someone he respects and admires, into caring for him as someone that he genuinely has affection for and ends up falling in love with. So you just see this kind of increase in it, going through all those different relationship stages with him, which is great. There were some wonderful, delightful scenes, like I mentioned before, when they were in forced proximity, skulking in some dark alleyways, where to not look dodgy, they had to make out in some dark alleyways and look like they were just there for a good time, and then be really awkward about it afterwards. Which was hilarious. It kind of slowly came out to the rest of our main characters. So to Commander Izoma and the other Kayla, Malek and Tadek. And it was wonderfully awkward, and I loved it. They are sort of working together and sort of trying to deal with this situation of the counterfeit coins. There are a lot of traitors, and suddenly, because one of the traitors was quite high up in the ranks, it's then well, how far has this gone? Who do we actually trust? So there's this intense panic, and they kind of have to go on almost this little lockdown to ensure that the Sultan and her family are safe, and trying to work out how the people within the guards in the palace are involved in this plot, how they can kind of counteract it, and they don't have a huge amount of people to trust. So there's all of that tension kind of going on as well amongst everything else, and it was just brilliant. I could talk even more through the moments of the book and the bits that I enjoyed, what I loved about them, but I think you should read the book, and I don't want to totally spoil it for you, even though I said this is spoilers, so I'm just not going to do that. But it was amazing. I loved the full I suppose, resolution moment, and I love the moment before then, like the climactic moment and the chaos that happened towards that, and there were some lovely sweet moments in here, and I just loved it. Okay, that's basically all I can say. I just loved this book. So I'm now going to put all of the books through the romance rater. If you're not sure what the romance rater is, I suggest going and have a look at the introduction video I did. So I'm going to go through all of the books at the same time through each of the prompts and tell you what the numbers look like. I think from hearing my opinion, it's going to be pretty obvious how I rate these books. But as I get on to doing this again further on in the year with 3 other romance books, then I'd quite like to see how they compare overall. So starting off by looking at characters. So I'm looking at the protagonist. Am I rooting for the protagonist? So with Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, am I rooting for Iris Kelly? Yes, I am. I think Iris Kelly is great, so she gets 2 points. In the Davenports, am I rooting for... So with the Davenports, I did go through each of them for each of the 4 couples and then kind of averaged it out. So am I rooting for Olivia, Helen, Amy Rose and Ruby? I could see me doing it if there were changes made to the book, as I've already expressed my opinion on how I struggled to kind of connect with it. So some of them I felt, yeah, I see where they're going and I can see how I could root for them, but generally my overall feeling for all of the characters is just kind of like, nah, so they all get 1. Kadu, am I rooting for Kadu? Absolutely, I'm rooting for Kadu. 3 points for Kadu. It's absolutely fantastic. Love that character. The love interest. Am I invested in them? In Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, Stevie. Yes, I adore Stevie. 3 points for Stevie. So we're looking at the end game of the romances for Olivia, Helen, Amy, Rose and Ruby. And it's a mixture. Some of them, one of them I quite liked. I appreciated his deal. Others I could see again, but we just kind of fell short. And others were meh. And one of them was a nope, just nope. So overall, it averages out to meh. So just 1 point for those. And for Evemir in A Taste of Gold and Iron, I do really enjoy Evemir. I think he is a great character. So he gets 2 points. So as a couple, am I invested in them as a couple? Do I want them to get together as a couple and make it through life? For Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, Iris and Stevie, absolutely I do. 3 points, amazing couple, love it. Olivia, Helen, Amy, Rose and Ruby from the Davenports. It was very like, I couldn't quite get invested. It was too pingy all over the place and a lot of like in the heads and not so much seeing the love interest as much. So there was one, I don't care about them as a couple, so that was a nope, just no. But generally it averages out as a meh. So just 1 point for the Davenports. Taste of Gold and Iron. Do I need Kadu and Evemir to get together? Absolutely. It's 3 points for them. Moving on to the romance side of these books now. So looking at, did the book give me the feels? Did it melt my little heart? Did I look at it and go, oh? Did I get emotional and feel like I needed to cry? How did it strike me? So Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. I thought it was amazing. I had the feels. I had the feels for them as a couple. I wanted good things for them. It touched my heart. And their relationship touched my heart. So yes, 3 points. Brilliant. It's going to come as no surprise that the Davenports did not hit me in the feels. No, it was very meh. 1 point meh. Taste of Gold and Iron. Can I give them 4? The limit is 3. We're going for 3. Yes. All of the feels. It just... I I cried for these characters. I needed to have the book afterwards. I was incensed that I had to put it down and go somewhere. Yes, the feels, all the feels. And now the banter between the characters. What is their back and forth, snipey communication, little jokiness together? So with Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, I did enjoy their chats that they had. There was lots of like little cute things that they did, and how they tried to make each other feel better. So yes, 2 points. It was great. Davenports. Some of them, it's a nope, just nope, because it's not a lot. There's very little banter going on. I'm not getting excited. I'm not finding it funny. I'm not feeling any tension. So it's come out again with this one as a meh. Could have been a nope, just nope, really, almost, but it was just a meh with banter for the Davenports. I'm sorry. And with A Taste of Gold and Iron, there was a lot of seriousness throughout it. There were moments of this kind of like teasing banter. There were some wonderful awkward moments. So again, it's a 2 for the banter for A Taste of Gold and Iron. Finally, the spark. Can you get that simmering tension, that chemistry, that excitement of these two characters? For Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, yes, there was a lot of undercurrents in there. You could see that they definitely wanted to get together. you could feel it. So yeah, spark for them, 2 points. For the Davenports, it's just very meh. It's not sparking for me. Apparently it's sparking for the characters. That's good, forget them. Other people enjoyed it. For me, it's just a meh. And with A Taste of Gold and Iron, oh my goodness, they had all the sparks. There was fireworks. It was just constant. So exciting. All of it. 3 points for A Taste of Gold and Iron. Okay, coming on to probably the bit I'm most invested in within romance, which is the healthy relationship. Love the healthy relationship. So I am looking at, do they complement each other as a couple? Do they bring the best out of each other? Iris Kelly Doesn't Date? Yes. They definitely give each other self-worth. They point out what makes each other amazing and give each other the confidence to take what they want from life and to go for it and to not be afraid and to trust themselves and to build on what makes them wonderful. So absolutely 3 points for Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. Slightly higher points on this one for Olivia. I thought her end game, I thought they were a very well balanced couple. I just didn't really care. But on paper, yes, they work. So Olivia I gave 2 points. Helen and Ruby 1 point because it felt like it could have been anyone. And Amy Rose and John Davenport 0 points. I'm not sold. Nope, not sold in that relationship. For me, it's a nope. Nope, just no. And that all balances out to be 1 point and meh. So sorry, Olivia. You tried. And Taste of Gold and Iron, it's gonna be a 3. They just work so well together. The way they see each other and see each other for who they are and try and help the other one see themselves and see their worth again and what makes them important, what their light to the world is. Yes, 3 points. Communication, one of my favourite ones. The importance of communication. Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, there was a lot of very healthy things. Like I said, there were certain points that I thought were going to keep them apart for a while, but they dealt with it straight away. They spoke to each other, they discussed things. But it is not, I can't award them the full 3 points because there was a part of the book where they didn't communicate the best. And so it has to be 2. That was dealt with, that was addressed and dealt with, and it made sense for the characters. Communication for all of the Davenports is 1. They were terrible at it. It was terrible communicating all over. No. Eventually communication happened, so that's why it's not a 0, but meh communication. Taste of Gold and Iron, well done. It was hard work, but they did well with communicating. They pushed through and they dealt with stuff, and I love it. 3 points. And finally in this category, it is the respect. Do they respect each other? And for Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, yes, they absolutely do. They definitely respect each other and appreciate what the other one is doing, and they are very clear with making sure each other are comfortable and allowing each other their space and to be able to do things they enjoy. 3 points. The Davenports, this was their best round because, like I said, on paper, I can understand it. I can understand it on paper. I didn't get emotionally invested. So this levels out as a 2. All of them got 2, apart from, funnily enough, Amy Rose. Amy Rose's relationship I have issue with. So there we go. But yeah, they got 2. That was good. It was great. Yep, they respect each other. Wonderful. Marvellous. Crack on. And for A Taste of Gold and Iron, yes, this is a big part of their communication, like making sure that the other one was comfortable and encouraging each other to tell them what makes them comfortable and what they need. And that definitely, having watched the growth of Evermore's respect for Kadu grow, like his appreciation for what he's trying to do, who he actually is, like changes throughout the book. And so by the end of it, and I definitely at least halfway through, they do really respect each other and want to make sure the other one is okay with everything. Well done. 3 points. So the final section before I give you the totals is genre. So each of them I judge on different things. So with Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, the contemporary romance, did it give me silly fun times? Yes, it did. They get 3 points. For the Davenports, did it give me a good idea of the historical period? This one I found difficult because I was not immersed the way I want to be in historical fiction into that time and space. There were definitely details, there were definitely a lot of things that were brought into it, so it was fine. It just wasn't amazing. Like I couldn't feel that I was able to completely visualize where I was and kind of be living and breathing the 1910 Chicago. It did, though, make me want to go and research that period. And it did make me go and find out about real life people that their stories were inspired by. So it has encouraged me. So I'm a bit torn. So it's kind of sitting at a 1.5. I think I've had to kind of hit that 0.5 because Mare feels quite harsh, but 2, I don't feel it hit that great. I don't feel it did. So it's a 1.5. And then the Taste of Gold and Iron being the fantasy romance, did it give me that fantasy world that I love? Did it do good world building? Yes, it was so good. I was fully immersed in this world. You were given a political system. You could see it. I had all of the visuals of what it looked like in my head. Like you could smell it, you could taste it, you could walk down the streets and feel them underneath you. It felt really real. It felt really like it could be a real place. 3 points. So the totals for all of these are nobody's surprised to hear that the lowest total of 11.5 goes to the Davenports. The book coming in second place with a total of 26 out of 30 is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. Again, we're not surprised. And finally, the winning book from this one, coming in at 28 out of 30, is A Taste of Gold and Iron. So there we go. Those are all my numbers, and I am very much looking forward to continuing with this project. Those numbers I will be keeping a hold of and will be comparing to the next set of 3 books that I will be doing around May or June time. I have had so much fun with this project. I have not had a lot of fun with editing because this is an absolute pain in the bum, but very satisfying once it's done. But in terms of being able to push myself out of my comfort zone, read different things for me and get a lot of joy that I wasn't expecting from them, and be able to dissect exactly why I didn't like one, was great. I really enjoyed that, and being able to talk to you about it and share all my thoughts and feelings. Thank you for being my therapy. I would love to hear if you have any books that gave you similar feelings to ones in here. Please tell me books that you didn't like. Tell me books that you loved. I would love to hear all about it. Tell me if you're interested in reading any of these or if you have read them and how you felt about them. And if you want to put any books through the Romance Rater, let me know what scores you get. So yeah, come and chat in the comments. You know I love a chat. And if you want to let me know you're here but don't know what to say, then give me a big ol' love heart. Happy reading, everyone.